A big question in DUIs is how is the crime lab processing my blood result? How are they taking my sample, putting it through a machine, and then coming up with a result? Some people think it's just their sample. They're taking their sample, they plug it in, and it spits a result. And so we know exactly what the number is. We know that the number that comes out of the machine is tied right back to their sample. It's pretty clear. In reality, that's not exactly how it works. So the crime lab and the criminalists working there, they don't just simply take one person at a time, prepare the sample, plug it into a machine, and then call it a day. They say, okay, the machine spit out a result, and now we know what that result is. We can tie it together. In reality, the crime lab prepares a number of people's different samples, and they put them into a big machine all at the same time. They put it into what's called an autosampler, and it looks like this. So this is a Perkin-Elmer autosampler, and you can see here there's two big trays on each one of these machines. This is just the sampler portion of it. So this is not the entirety of the gas chromatography machine. This is not the entire unit. This is just something that rotates each sample through this little port here where there's a syringe that goes in and punctures each headspace vial. And then it comes out and goes into the next one. This big tray rotates and rotates around, and the sampler actually dips in and pulls everybody's samples out. And that's how it works. So people will sometimes say, well, isn't there a possibility for some sort of confusion there? What if the label's wrong? How do they know that what comes out of the other end is actually my sample? What if it got the one next to me or the one next to that? Could there be room for error there? And the answer is yeah, there really can be. This is something that can be very surprising to people. We start investigating these issues on all of our cases, but it really becomes prevalent when we have what's called a disconnect case, when somebody's blood result comes back considerably higher than we would be expecting. It doesn't match what they said happened. That doesn't match what they said that they consumed. It doesn't match how they performed on the field sobriety tests. There's too big of a difference. Were vials mislabeled? So when the crime lab takes somebody's sample and they plug it in here, they keep a spreadsheet, they keep a list that matches each vial to different numbers, and that all goes into a computer so the machine knows where it's dipping its syringe into each one of these different things. But yeah, the reality is there's a lot of other people's samples that are going through in your batch. And what the crime lab does is they load these things up, they fill each one of these holes up with somebody else's different samples, and they turn the machine on. Most of them will leave. They'll let this thing run overnight. And so they're not actually sitting there watching each syringe go into each different headspace vial. And so they're just relying on this equipment to work. Well, what if this equipment malfunctions? What if something went wrong? What if the syringe has a bend in it, or there's some sort of mechanical error that the machine stops physically working, or labels were misvialed, or somebody picked one vial up and put it in a different hole. There's a lot of different ways that this can happen, but it's not as one-to-one as some people think. It's actually a little bit more complicated than that. And when people recognize that this is the equipment, this is what it looks like, and so your blood sample may be next to 50 other people's blood samples, sometimes now people get a little bit uneasy with that, okay, because you're being treated along with everybody else and you're going into a big batch. And so it's a little bit scarier when you start thinking about there's a lot of room for error. There can be mislabeling. There's a lot to keep track of. There's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of holes. There's a lot of different labels. There's a lot of things that are going on in a DUI case. And for most crime labs, when this machine is spinning through all of these different things, they may not even be in the building. So it's important you understand how that works. This is how you can create reasonable doubt. You can show these things and explain how this works to different jurors, and people will start looking at this and saying, okay, that might be something that is a little bit uncomfortable. I had no idea that's how it worked. There is an ability to create some doubt in the process. So if you've been charged with DUI and you want to talk about this and many other defenses, give our office a call. We offer free case evaluations. We're happy to speak with you. Thanks for watching.